the start of the 2025 MLS season. We just mentioned the Galaxy won it all in 2024. They began defense of their crown on Sunday against expansion San Diego, who began life in MLS. And San Diego claimed a 2-0 away win. And there's Dreyer with both goals. One of them came about due to a playing out of the back mistake by the Galaxy. That was a big theme on opening weekend. I know you're going to talk about that when we're done with this rip of games. But what a start to life for Mikey Veras and company.
Wonderful start. This was not a smash and grab by San Diego. They were the better team from start to finish. And look, this is their first game in history, an expansion team, and they're on the road playing the defending MLS Cup champions. I will say, the size of the Galaxy field, while it has benefited them in the past, I don't think with what they look like right now that it is advantageous to them going forward. And finally, for those that scream and yell about the structure of Major League Soccer, the reason why this is able to happen is because specifically of the structure and the manufactured parity out there when it comes to Major League Soccer. But wonderful beginning for San Diego, but it's where you finish, not where you start.
Inter Miami NYCFC finished 2-2. Messi assisted both Inter Miami goals, one early to Aviles and then one very late to Segovia to salvage a point.
Red card early.
Yeah, Inter Miami played most of this match down a man because shortly after scoring, Aviles got himself sent off. One of the NYCFC goals by Martinez came about because of a bad Jordi Alba giveaway in his own half.
Yeah, it's a theme that is emerging here, at least on the first weekend of Major League Soccer. I just thought it was a good clawback from Messi and company in that situation where you go down a man, and you could see NYC was salivating. They thought it was in their hands, and Messi, with 2 assists in the game, played obviously a big part as he has done time and time again. So this is much more about the point that Inter Miami got and the points that NYCFC gave away.
Now, in the first episode of Onside, they chronicle the Galaxy Inter Miami game from the opening week of last season. And there is a point where Ricky Puig gets fouled and no yellow card is given. And they show Greg Vanny yelling at the fourth official and saying, if that was Messi on the ground, it would have definitely been a yellow, suggesting that Messi gets favorable treatment. I thought about that because you saw after the game, Messi was very unhappy with the officiating. He hounded the whole officiating crew, put his hands on an official at one point. If it was anybody else, we might be talking about a suspension, but because it's Messi, nobody's holding their breath.
Life isn't fair and soccer isn't fair, my friend, and people get treated differently. And when you're the GOAT, you have a very, very long leash.
Columbus claimed a 4-2 home win over Chicago. Rossi with 2 goals. Russell Rowe got one as well. Brian Gutierrez scored both for Chicago. This was Wilfred Nancy against Greg Berhalter, so a romantic coaching orgy. And sure enough, 2 of the Columbus goals, the Russell Rowe one and then the second Rossi one, came about due to playing out of the back mistakes.
I continue to sense a theme here. Yeah, I mean, look, this was the first look at Greg Berhalter and his return to Major League Soccer. And while it was an incredibly entertaining game, there are knives out, and there will continue to be for Greg Berhalter relative to his national team exposure. And certainly this is plenty of fuel for the fire for those that want to do that.
Another coach making his return to Major League Soccer was Bruce Arena. San Jose with a 4-0 home win over RSL.
They call him Bruce, and he is a legend for a reason. And this is just exactly what you need, not just in terms of the competitive side, but making the Quakes relevant again. Because for a number of years, they have been completely irrelevant. Nobody has cared what they have done. And when you come out and you stamp your presence with authority in the way that Bruce Arena has done, well done, because it gets me to pay attention. I think it gets other people to pay attention. It's kind of what you pay for when you have Bruce Arena at the helm.
For the first time in more than a decade, Philadelphia are coached by somebody other than Jim Curtin. Bradley Carnell now in charge. They claimed a 4-2 away win over Orlando. Baribo with 2 goals. Gazdag and Ura got the others. Pasalic scored twice for Orlando. The Ura goal involved a playing out of the back mistake by Orlando.
Yes. I think the Philadelphia story here is in an offseason and at a time where people thought that this was going to get away from them, and the Jim Curtin era, where it has to be said he did much, much more with much, much less relative to other people. Would you be able to continue that with somebody new and the loss of the players that you have? So far, so good. Again, early days and all the things that we were talking about here, but a wonderful statement for them to come out on the road and to dominate in the way that they did. So it bodes well for the future.
Kevin Sullivan did not play. I wonder how his father felt about that because if you watch the Onside documentary, that guy gives off some LeVar Ball vibes.
Really? Oh,
Yes.
see, now I'm in, because you gotta have kind of villains in these things too. Not
Yes.
that he's a villain, but, all right.
Dallas came from behind to claim a 2-1 away win over Houston. Musa and Julio with their goals. And again, the Musa goal benefiting from a playing out of the back mistake.
Yes, the playing out of the back rears its ugly head again, and, ultimately, in this battle of Texas here, if, take away the playing out of the back situation, it's not a good start for Houston, and for Dallas, who also has made some changes to come in, and to find a way against their interstate rival. That's the way you start out a season.
We know the MLS transfer record was broken twice this past offseason, and both guys delivered on opening weekend. Kevin Denke got the winner for Cincinnati against the Red Bulls, and Emmanuel Latte Lat with 2 goals for Atlanta in their 3-2 victory over Montreal. He looks like a player, huh?
Yes, he does. And look, I know there was a lot of talk about the return of Almiron, but Emmanuel Latelat is the real deal. I mean, in his first goal, if you look at how high he got up in the air and was able to redirect that. So he's got a lot of tricks in his bag. And for a player that now, every time we say his name, it's relative to the $22 million transfer, for him to come in when everybody is sitting there, arms folded, saying, all right, what have you got? And for him to deliver, that's the mark of a star. And 60 plus thousand people over there in Atlanta. And it's just kind of like, it's 60,000 people. And sometimes we take it for granted what Atlanta is doing from a business perspective and the numbers that they are getting, even at times when the team isn't good. Well, not only is this team so far in this first look at them look good, but huge numbers. So congratulations to Atlanta for entertaining all of those 60,000 people, and to Montreal for that matter. Even though they lost, they put on a good show, and it was a back and forth type of game, entertainment.
So overall thoughts on opening weekend, including all the playing out of the back mistakes.
All right, let me try to steel myself for this. Playing out of the back, Mosse, is not the problem. When it works, it can create valuable space and opportunities to attack. The problem is this belief and this indoctrination. It seems to be in a generation of coaches and players that this is the right way to play, and therefore this is the only way to play. And also, I want to be very, very clear, because I was tweeting out the errors and talking at it relative to MLS, but this is not an American thing or an MLS thing for that matter. Playing out of the back with disastrous results can be found in every league and every country and every single level. But it's been sold, and we talked about this before, it's been sold as this romantic hill to die on in defense of the beautiful game. But this dogmatism, Mosse, it drives me crazy. Playing out of the back has now become a disease or a virus, and I am begging someone to come up with a cure or a vaccine, and preferably one that works. Not all players and not all teams can consistently play out of the back, and not all players and teams should consistently play out of the back. And even those that do, Mosse, like the elites out there, they pick and choose their moments. If you are the best team with the best players, the risk-reward calculation of playing out of the back is very different, especially in a league like MLS with its manufactured parity, because you're often facing teams that are, relatively equal in terms of their ability. So the margin for error is even smaller in something like MLS, because you can't lean on the competitive advantage that the elites out there have when they're playing in those leagues, and they have superior talent and that can overcome those errors. Mosse, we can blame Barcelona, we can blame Guardiola, we can blame Spain or whoever you want, but it's created a false sense, Mosse, of security in the game, and it is maddening. This stubborn approach that is cloaked in romance, like I said, when in reality, it's often just a proverbial definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Instead, it just creates dumb, self-inflicted, and avoidable wounds, my friend.
To your point on even the best teams picking their spots, Ederson just picked up another assist, his 6th career Premier League assist, which is the most ever by a goalkeeper. You wouldn't think that a Pep Guardiola coach team would have the goalkeeper with the most Premier League assists ever, but he does give Ederson license if he sees a player open down the field to go, route one.
And at least for me, it is as beautiful as playing out of the back. All right. And it requires training, it requires skill, it requires ability. And that it has been mocked and derided is, I think, to the detriment of the game out there. But there are those that say, hey, this is, again, this is the hill that I want to die on. This is how I want to play. And they just keep going back to the well time and time again.